Hello, everyone. My name is Adam, and I will be your host for this episode. In this episode, I will be talking about the Lynx football season with the help of Coach Wolfe. Coach Wolfe, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
Would you like to tell us a little about yourself for those freshmen out there?
Yeah, sure. Coach Wolfe, I've been here. This was my 8th season with the Lynx. Prior to that, I spent 4 years at Adair Casey. They are combined with Guthrie Center now. I think it's called ACGC. Before that, I was a student at Simpson College, played football there, played safety and a kick returner, majored in physical education and coaching. And then prior to that, I actually graduated from Abraham Lincoln right here in 2006.
Well, let's get on with the season. Preseason. You moved from Class 4A to 5A, I believe that is?
We did. And, we had some questions about that. But for us, at the end of the day, nothing really changed. It could have, TJ dropped down to 4A, and for them, their schedule was a little bit different. But for us, it kind of felt like we were playing the same opponents that we had previously in 4A because we jumped up with just about everybody else.
So of the past couple seasons, say past year, what teams were you looking forward most to playing because you thought they were maybe a tough opponent, a learning experience for juniors and seniors?
Yeah, I think when you kind of look at the season, you can kind of peg certain games. Nothing's ever set in stone for sure, but there are certain games that you kind of feel really good about, and then there's games that you say, wow, that's one that if we play really well, we're going to win, and those are the games that you try to maybe I wouldn't say focus on because you play each week by week, but in the back of your mind, you kind of have a little something. And one of those games I think this year was Ames for us. And we looked at that game. We were excited about that game. And, unfortunately, we didn't win that football game. We were in a position to. We were up 31-24, and we turned the ball over. And, unfortunately, at that same time, around that same time, Eli, our quarterback, went down. And we didn't end up finishing the game with a win, which was tough for us.
I was at that game. That was a very exciting game.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I believe that was homecoming week, and it was a really back and forth game, and it was kind of one of those, whoever scores last is going to win. And unfortunately, we got, like I said, we got bit by the injury bug, and then things kind of snowballed on us a little bit at the end there. But we were excited about that one. We'll be excited for that one again next year as well.
You did at least come around and win one.
We did, yeah. So we kind of went through our mid-season gauntlet there with Ames, Aukee, and Dowling, all not necessarily in that order, but then we got back at home and got one versus Des Moines East.
Let's start with I have the Sioux, the Council Bluffs Jefferson game. Won that 34-16. That was your first away game, but more home game than anything for both teams. Tim McCarthy got 2 reception TDs, and you were up in the first. And so how do you feel about that with everything? You felt like you had a good run?
Yeah, that game was an interesting one because week one is always just kind of weird. You don't know what teams might exactly run. Some teams switch their offenses or their defensive schemes in the off season. It's also really important to us that we hold a scrimmage preseason. This year we scrimmaged trainer, which was really good for us because I think you just don't, you practice for months or even a couple weeks or whatever in pads versus yourself. And it's just tough to really tell where you're at until you get out on the field versus somebody else. So getting that scrimmage is big. And then no matter what, though, week ones are always just a little bit strange. And then playing TJ this year, they had always run for the last 3 or 4 years, they'd run a double tight, double wing. And this year they came out in more of a spread set. We kind of anticipated that, but we weren't sure. So it was just something that we had to really plan for. And they had some really solid athletes and senior leadership this year, and so we were fortunate to come out there and play well and come away with a 34-16 win.
Next week you played Denison, and that score was a little bit more tight. You were still up 15 in the first, and then they were up, and then it was a little bit of a fight in the third, and then you guys came out on top in the fourth.
Yeah, they stuck it to us. If I recall, in the second quarter, I think we went down at halftime. I don't recall what the score was, but
The score at half is 21, Denison 15, Council Bluffs.
all right. So I think they ran 21 off in a row, and we kind of really lost the momentum. And momentum is huge in football. We lost the momentum there, and talked to our kids at halftime, and we talked about, hey, there's two ways to respond to this, and fortunately our kids came out and responded really well, and we finished that game with a 46-36 win.
And then next week versus Glenwood. How do you feel about that?
Shoot, they've got our number. That's going to be a big focus for us. We've got them again next year, and a big focus for us figuring out what we need to do differently to compete and win that football game. You look at the scores they've put up against us over the last few times that we've played them, 3-4 times now, and they really had our number. So that's going to be something that we look at this off season, and what adjustments do we need to make, whether that's schematically, offensively, defensively, and into our approach versus those guys. Coach Faust does a really good job down there in Glenwood, and he's a class act. So we enjoy playing them, and it's a close, obviously proximity game, only being about 30 minutes away. But we want to put a better product on the field and really be competitive in that football game.
Then next week, I believe, you played Sioux City West away for 55-33. Got 8 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, our offense really exploded that week against Sioux City West. We kind of were hoping that the Glenwood game was a little bit misleading, and it kind of was. And really, our defense played well that game too. It was 55-33, but I think we gave up maybe a pick six and 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns or something like that. So realistically, I think our defense only actually gave up 12 points. So if we take care of business a little more on the special teams, that game looks a little bit different than it did. Fortunately, either way, we came out with a win and grew a little bit that week.
You did have 2 seniors with a total of 3 tackles each. The defense was strong.
Yeah, they played well that game. They played well, and like I said, the week before Glenwood, we gave up 48. So it was nice to see them come out and play well. And, like I said, 33 was misleading based on what really happened on the defensive side of the ball.
And then I want to talk about Mikhail Hayes. I don't know if it's every game, but he's gotten scoring a lot of them.
Yeah, Mikhail had a solid year this year. I think it could have been even better. He tweaked his ankle. It might have been versus Sioux City West, or it might have been week 5 there. Somewhere in the middle of the season, he kind of tweaked his ankle, and it kind of hampered him a little bit throughout the season. And I don't think he maybe played to his full potential because of that. But he's a warrior, and if you go back and watch our last game versus Sioux City North, he battled through that, and games before that too. He's quite the player, and really had to step into a role following his brother. I think his brother set the record versus Sioux City West last year for touchdowns in a game with 5 or 6 or whatever it was, and so Mikhail stepped into that role this year and did a fantastic job.
You got a total of 9 TDs across the entire season.
Yeah, the TDs are great, and I think he averaged 6.3 or something like that yards per carry, which is solid.
And then next week we played Dowling Catholic.
Dowling is they're an exception to the rule. Not only do they come out of suburbia of Des Moines, which the suburban side of Des Moines is always tough, but they also, there was a point in time just a couple years ago they rattled off 7 state titles in a row. So they're quite the juggernaut, and we knew that coming in, and I think offensively we moved the ball at times fairly well, probably not consistently enough as I honestly believe that we could have, and defensively we struggled a little bit against them. They're quite the football team, and they made a run at it. They were I think a game away from getting to the Dome again this year, and got beat by Southeast Polk, who is in the championship game now. So they were a tough squad, and we'll play them again at home next year. So we'll be game planning for that one as well.
And then homecoming versus Ames, a very back and forth game.
Right, I talked about that one a little bit earlier. That's a marquee game for us, and we're trying to find a way as a staff and a program, really, we want to get what we consider to be a good win on our tallies, I guess, if you will, and I thought that was going to be one for us. We let one slip away the year before versus Sioux City East. Back in 2020, we had Sioux City East on the ropes, took the lead with about a minute and a half to go, and then unfortunately they returned the kickoff for a touchdown. We let that one slip away. So here we were with Ames this year, and we were up 31-24, and by all accounts, we had the football, and if we could just move the ball down the field and score one more time, or if we could get a stop, felt like we could walk out of there with a win. And unfortunately, we turned the ball over, and I think the next, they tied up. Next drive, our quarterback gets hurt, and things kind of tumbled from there, unfortunately. So it was a fun game. It was a great 3.5 quarters, and we're going to have to find a way this next season to play 4.
I was a part of the sport broadcasting team during that game, and I was directing the camera. Holy crap.
Well,
it was very action-packed. There was so much happening.
Yeah, and I think with it being homecoming week, it was already a little bit more intense, and we've got a good student section that comes out and supports and gets loud and all those sorts of things. So it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it'd be a lot more fun when you win, but we appreciate all the support that we get from our student section and fans and family and friends.
And from this point on, how did you face like Waukee, Des Moines East, and Sioux City North without having Eli?
Yeah, that was tough, and Wade Brown stepped into that quarterback role, and he really did a great job. Actually, our statistically, our passing game got better, and that's not a knock on Eli. That's a credit to what Wade was doing. And we tried to really, in our game planning, focus on what we felt Wade was going to do well. They're both good quarterbacks, but good in different ways. So we were trying to put Wade into a position to be successful, and like I said, statistically, he did that. Of course, it's tough though to go from being the backup quarterback to stepping in and starting versus Waukee. So that was tough on him, but he did a great job stepping in and playing his tail off. Unfortunately, anytime your quarterback goes down, though, that's obviously a detriment to your team, because even though Wade did a great job, that also meant that he had to play 2 positions because he was already starting for us at safety as well. So, it didn't help our team, and injuries never do. But I thought those kids that filled into those spots did a great job.
And then on to Waukee, which was your first game with your new quarterback, and you're doing pretty well at the start. But then it kind of went downhill, and
yeah, I think it's really just a matter of consistency. That's really the name of the game: consistency and momentum, really, in football. But consistency in that game, we made a few plays, and unfortunately, defensively we did some really good things. It was just we'd give up a big play here or there, and unfortunately, then the game kind of got away from us. They never really, 33-11, I think is how it finished, or something like that. But they didn't really walk away from us. I don't think that they were a whole lot better than us or anything like that. It was just they were more consistent than we were. So, and how do you fix that? Well, part of that, I think, is just starts in the off season. So, we talk to our kids about, all right, are you consistently in the weight room? Are you consistently going to class? Are you, everything that you do in life, it doesn't have to be on the football field. They all tie in and work together. So how do we fix those things? Well, you fix them from now until August.
The teacher's coming in.
Well, we talk a lot about football. It's really we love football, and we love teaching the game and the scheme and X's and O's and tackling, and all those things are great, and they really are. It's a lot of fun for these kids. But at the end of the day, it's really about teaching life too. And can you show up and give your best effort every single day? It's anybody can show up to the weight room one day and really kill it, or the same deal. With football too, but you can't just show up on Friday night and it doesn't just happen. So if you look at the great programs across the country, Sure, there's always going to be some talent involved. I mean, you take a look at somebody like Alabama and what Nick Saban's done there, and it's about consistency. Those guys are coming in, they're competing every single day, because if they don't, there's somebody right there to take their job, right? So if you can put in that work year round, it's going to benefit you on the field, but it's also going to benefit you in life, even when you graduate. Because all of us, at some point in time, we're going to be done with football. Whether that's for these kids, that might be at the end of their high school career, it might be college, and if we're fortunate enough, someday maybe in NFL. But even those careers come to an end.
Then we came back home after losing to Aukee, and you won versus Des Moines East, 37-7.
Yeah, it was nice to get back on track. Like I said, we knew we had a kind of a tough middle of the season there with Dowling, Ames, and Waukee all in a row there, and then we come back home and got a nice win versus Des Moines East, and then that was good for the kids and good to get back on track. And the hope then was still, we knew we had Sioux City North coming the next week, and we knew they were going to be tough, but we were hoping we were right back on track, and the potential for the kind of back ending into the playoffs was possibly still there. It was really, really slim, but we knew it might still be there. And at the end of the day, what we really wanted to do was finish the year with a winning season.
And you had mentioned about your passing game improved. Your last win, or the last win that I have recorded, had 8 rushing TDs. This one had 1 rushing TD, but 4 passing TDs.
Yeah. I think we started to put the ball in the air, and Wade was making good decisions and really making good reads. And then we had some receivers that really made some really nice plays. And I don't want to leave everybody out, but to give at least our seniors credit, I know that Noah and Tim did a fantastic job. And speaking of Tim, he had to sit out, unfortunately, the Waukee game, which I think could have been a game breaker for us as well. Too really could have made a difference in that game. They're great kids and all working together to have success through the air that week and really those final 3 weeks.
And last but not least, versus Sioux City North. Even if you did lose, you still played really strong.
Yeah, I just we knew they were going to be tough, and they were really solid on defense. You kind of looked at their scores throughout the year, and they weren't putting up a lot of points. It was really their defense that was keeping teams down just low enough so that they could, if they could score 2 or 3 times, they might win. We knew it was going to be a challenge. We were hopeful to be up for it, and again, finish out the season with a 5-4 record. Unfortunately, that's not the way that it went, and they came out with the win, and it was an unfortunate way to finish out the year. But at the same time, I didn't question our kids, especially those seniors. They gave it all. They put it all on the field there, and it was really a joy to coach them.
Especially that fourth quarter touchdown that I think it was Tim, or was it Noah?
I think it was Tim. Tim caught it off a tip and went about 60, 70 yards or whatever that was. Yeah, to me, I don't care if it's first quarter, fourth quarter, whatever it is. I don't care what the score is. You're playing to win. So and you're playing to score. Even if it was 40-0 and there's 1 minute left in the game, my mindset is, okay, let's go score. And I think we had some seniors that had that same mindset. So it was fun to be a part of and work with some like-minded kids.
Now with overall stats, for Tim McCarthy had 22 receptions for 326 yards and 3 fumble recoveries, 35.5 total tackles, and a lot of kick returns and punt returns. He's your most active player on both offense and defense of the ball. And what do you think about him?
I think Tim's awesome. That's what I think. I think there's a reason, we had our banquet a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, a week and a half ago, and we actually gave Tim our team MVP award because of everything that you just mentioned there. Not only did he do kick return, punt return, safety, receiver, he did all those things for us, and he did them well. but he was a leader in the weight room, and he's just a great kid. So by all rights, he was our team MVP this year, and like I mentioned earlier, that's why when we had to play aukee without him, it was really a detriment to our team, and we could have used him out there that week, and it was just sometimes that sort of thing happens. But Tim's great. I know he's going to go on and play college ball. I'm not sure. I don't think he knows where he's going just yet, but I'm excited to see where he lands. And because of his work ethic and his abilities, I'm sure he'll be successful.
And then Eli had 97 carries. Very active quarterback when it came to running the ball.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the difference when Eli went down and Wade came in. That's kind of why you saw those statistics change a little bit. We knew that they were different kids. So I think that's maybe why we were a little more successful in throwing the football, because we probably did throw the football a little bit more and maybe focused on that a little bit more. That's not, again, to say that Wade can't run the football, because he can, but they're different types of runners, right? And so Eli did a fantastic job. What he really did well was putting his shoulder down and falling forward. And, I mean, he'd make some kids miss every once in a while, but really as a quarterback, what was impressive about him was he was able to lower his shoulder pad and run, 5A linebackers over. He was a tough kid. So, we were proud of him and had fun watching him tote the football. The other thing about having a quarterback that can move, and I think that's really important, is when you're planning for defensively for playing a team, if they got a quarterback that can run and move around, it presents a whole nother challenge, because now you got to account for all 11 on the field. Whereas if you got a quarterback that's a statue and just going to sit back there and throw, it's a little bit easier. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that rule. If you're Tom Brady and you're that good, you don't need to run, right? But I think at the high school level, it's important to quite often have an athlete back there that can move.
And then on the defense side of the ball, we had Quentin Bradley for 29 total tackles, of a player who doesn't play offense.
Yeah, he didn't play a whole lot of offense this year. A little bit at H-back, which was really kind of our hybrid fullback tight end spot. The thing about Quentin was that he was just kind of a warrior for us. That last game, I'm not sure what happened with his arm. It's fine now, I guess, but at one point in time, it's almost like he couldn't even lift that arm. And, we were trying to. He didn't want anything to do with coming off the football field, because that was his last game, and he knew it. And he's out there making tackles with one arm, and that's the sort of attitude and effort that you're looking for. Not to, we don't want anybody getting hurt or anything like that, but it wasn't. We always have our trainer take a look at the kids, and from what we gathered, it wasn't a serious issue. Just might give him some trouble that day, and but that's a reason too that we gave. Talking about our postseason awards, we gave him our Lincoln Award, and that's the one award that we have that kind of stays here and goes on a plaque. And the reason he won that award is because we felt that he really represented our program in a way that. A way that we want it represented, right? Toughness and attitude and determination and work ethic and all those sorts of things. And Quentin's a phenomenal kid, and we're going to miss him as him and his senior leadership next year.
So on the side of kicking, how do you feel about that? I know this is going to be all on Connor because he did most of it.
Well, yeah. So Connor's graduating this year, and that's one thing. Again, I talked about our banquet. I said it was really nice to have a kicker this year that we felt really confident in, and we thought he was going to be pretty consistent in. And I kind of made a joke. I said I'm a Husker fan, and I can't tell you how important it is to have a kicker that can consistently put it through the uprights, because the Huskers have lost 3 or 4 games this year just because they can't kick a football. We were fortunate enough to have Connor, and he did a great job. And we're certainly going to have some shoes to fill there. We got some kids that we think can maybe step into that role, but there's going to be some work that has to be done.
You say he went through up the uprights. There's actually one where the ref called it good, but on the footage for huddle, it looks like it didn't go through.
Hey, I'm going to trust the ref on that one, then. You don't hear that very often, but I'll take the ref's word on that one. If they said it went through, we'll go with that.
So, with your seniors gone next year, how do you feel about the runner-ups that'll probably be taking their places?
Yeah, I mean, we still had a decent amount of kids that were were younger that are going to be returning, and really time will tell. We're excited about them, but you never, what is that? You never count your eggs before they hatch. That whole deal. There's a lot of work to be done between now and the end of August, right? And we talk to our kids a lot too. Whenever we get to talk to them in the off season, it's kind of a reminder that, hey, football games aren't won in August and September. They're won from now until August. So what are you going to do to make sure that you're ready when August shows up, right? So where does that start? Well, that starts in the weight room. That starts for going out for other sports. That starts with getting it done in the classroom. There's a lot of things to get done from now until then.
Well, that's all. And I would like to thank you for coming on and helping talk about football.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoy it. As you can tell, I can see we went for almost half an hour. It's easy for me to sit down and talk about football and really talk about the kids that I love working with. So, I hope I didn't talk too long, but it's just kind of fun for me to do, and I hope that I gave you kind of what you needed in one of your podcasts here, and that the kids appreciate this.
Our first one this year.
Awesome.
Too.
Hey, I that's good. I'm glad I could kick it off for you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.